Hello and welcome to Ring of Thunder and happy 316 Day. Of course, what that means, Stone Cold Steve Austin will be on tonight's Raw, which will be at the WWE Performance Center because coronavirus, but more on that later. Start off with some Hall of Fame news. On last Thursday on After the Bell with Corey Graves, it was announced that the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, will be entering the Hall of Fame, and this morning, in fact, Jushin Thunder Liger, who has been huge all over the world and especially in Japan, will also be inducted into the Hall of Fame class of 2020. And if you're hoping to meet current Hall of Famer, he is a Hall of Famer, right? Yeah, of course he is. Kane, at the end of this month, then, sorry, kind of out of luck until July, because also this morning was announced that SC Comic-Con will actually be delayed to July 18th and 19th of this year because of the current sort of venue and new state of emergency business going on in the state of South Carolina. And, well, because of this new schedule, like all tickets are good for, or all the tickets that you have just bought, because of course you've already bought your tickets, will be good for the new dates. But if you went ahead and paid for autographs and photo ops ahead of time, those are going to be refunded because we don't quite know yet if any of the guests that were slated to be there at the end of March will be able to do it in July, and that includes Kane. So fingers crossed, but I mean, this is the 2020 we live in now. You know, it's funny, I was thinking a while ago that, 2020 was pretty much seemed like it was going to go the exact same way that it was going to go in 2019, all this sort of bunch of fun stuff planned for the first few months, and then, have a quiet summer of, working and getting that money and, of course, watching movies in the movie theater. And then once we hit Dragon Con on Labor Day weekend, from there on to the end of the year, well, you already know, it's been well documented what goes on with me from Dragon Con to the end of the year. We already know this. And as far as we know, Dragon Con is still planning on going forward. That is like just under 6 months away. So, I mean, of course, anything can happen now and then. And of course, the much anticipated Rawlanta 2, which is exactly 2 weeks from today. I wouldn't hold our breath, but I mean, again, you never know, but things are looking a lot better for Dragon Con than it is for Rawlanta 2. But the good thing about Rawlanta is you take Raw out of Rawlanta, you still get Atlanta. So, there's still things to be salvaged and things to be hoped for. Fuck it. So anyway, on to what's been going on this past week. On Raw, we started off with Becky coming out and talking about Shayna and her Elimination Chamber win and facing her at WrestleMania and everything, which also, semi-side note, WrestleMania, still planning on going forward for now, but that could change at any time. Chances are it's not going to be April 5th with a shitload of fans. It's either going to be an empty venue or will have to be delayed. Who knows? And then Rey Mysterio defeated Angel Garza, and then Charlotte Flair came out and talked about Rhea Ripley, including showing the video of Rhea like getting to walk around Raymond James Stadium, which, I mean, now that's kind of irrelevant because, again, doubtful WrestleMania will be taking place there on time. And then Rhea came out because, of course, Charlotte said her name, so like most superstars, you say somebody's name and they magically appear. She came out and Charlotte just sort of gave her that dismissive wave away, so Rhea punched her in the mouth and walked away. And then Bobby Lashley defeated Zack Ryder, not accompanied by Lana because Lana actually is off and away somewhere for a few weeks filming a new movie with Bruce Willis. So hey, there's a new Bruce Willis movie to look forward to, which will probably be coming out when all the movies that have been delayed this year will be coming out. Who knows? And then Aleister Black was doing a promo from his dark room, and then he had a knock on his door, and who else but Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. And they offered him a position with them as one of Seth's disciples, which Aleister Black, the character, famously is a Satanist and usually rejects organized religion for this reason, so of course he rejected them. And then Drew McIntyre defeated Eric Rowan, and then before he did that, he had the cage on the floor with that little big tarantula thing, that animatronic tarantula. Maybe it was animatronic, I don't know. And he took the steel steps and he just smushed the cage. So, yeah, creative squash that storyline. Get it? Squash. Okay. Next up, we had the Kabuki Warriors versus the most random tag team. Not the most random, but seemingly random tag team of Natalia and Liv Morgan, which I guess that's just one of Natalia's things is just pairing them off with random blondes. Because if you remember a couple months ago, they just had her randomly teaming up with Charlotte Flair against the Kabuki Warriors. It's just like, why? What unifying force do they have in common except they're both blonde? Ditto with Natalia and Liv. They were just trying to kill each other in the Elimination Chamber, or in theory that was their intent until Shayna Baszler decimated all of them. And now they're tagging together against the Kabuki Warriors. So it could lead something to, the rumors that for WrestleMania, the women's tag titles will be defended by the Kabuki Warriors against Bliss Cross Applesauce and the returning Divas of Doom, with everything that's happened with Beth Phoenix and, of course, Natalia going against the Kabuki Warriors. I mean, maybe. But anyway, that little tag team didn't really go as planned because while Natty was in the ring and Liv was waiting it tagged in, Ruby Riott walked up and she was just watching and, trying to get into Liv's head, and Liv was trying to ignore her as best she can. And then Sarah Logan walked up beside Ruby and watched with her, and then I guess 5 minutes later, Ruby finally noticed that Sarah was standing next to her, because then they started brawling, and then Liv just couldn't take it anymore, and she got right on the top rope and just leapt down on both of them, which put her out of action. And of course, that means Asuka got the 1, 2, 3 on Natalia, so we'll see where that goes from there. And then AJ Styles called out the Undertaker and invoked his government name, Mark Calloway, and quote unquote spilled the beans to anybody that didn't know that he's married to Michelle McCool, and that she's the one that's been enabling him and sucking him dry of all of his energy. And AJ was like, yeah, she's trying to kill you, and at WrestleMania I'm gonna help her. And so yeah, AJ Styles is allegedly going to kill Undertaker. And then Riddick Moss defeated Cedric Alexander to retain the 24/7 championship, which, if you see the episode of Main Event on the WWE Network, Riddick Moss defends his 24/7 title against Cedric Alexander, and that took place 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, okay, they're doing something with the 24/7 championship. And then MVP announced that he wanted to build his own stable of superstars to, train and really guide them. And he wanted it to build them around Edge. And of course, we've had cameras on the entrance waiting for Edge to come out and come into the arena and address what's been going on about Randy Orton. And then, of course, like the whole magic goes, MVP said Edge's name, and that's when Edge pulled in and he started marching out of his car all furiously. and started calling out for Randy Orton. And then, of course, Edge's music dropped. Everybody went nuts, and Edge marched to the ring and got a mic and yelled for Randy Orton to get his ass out there, completely ignoring MVP. And MVP said he was focusing on the wrong things. And then he was just like, and speaking of focusing on the wrong things, how's your wife? Which, of course, you don't poke a angry Edge like that. So MVP got justifiably speared. And then Randy came out and tried to RKO Edge, but Edge got out of that and RKO'd him instead. And of course, Randy didn't take well to getting RKO'd, so he just retreated. So Edge got out the chairs and concertoed MVP to send a message to Randy, which, yeah, this whole segment definitely did not disappoint at all. And then what we thought was going to be an incredible main event, which was Aleister Black versus Seth Rollins for the first time ever, I do believe. It ended via disqualification because when Aleister was getting the best of Seth, Murphy just dove in right on top of him, and of course the match got thrown out in a no contest. And then everybody was starting to gang up on Aleister, and then the Viking Raiders started to join in and to try to protect Aleister, and then the Street Profits came in to help the Viking Raiders, and Aleister Black just got the fuck out, and we ended up with our 18 millionth of 8-man tag team between the Monday Night Messiah and his disciples versus the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. And of course, it all ended with the Monday Night Messiah and his disciples winning, to which Kevin Owens snuck up behind them and stunned the disciples, but the Seth caught him with a stomp, and he's hit him with a stomp 2 more times to send a message. Ooh. So, Wednesday night on NXT, which did take place in the Performance Center with people, probably the last WWE event to have people for a while. It started off with Keith Lee defeating Cameron Grimes to retain the NXT North American Championship, and then he was attacked from behind by Damian Priest with a nightstick, and then Priest retreated, and Keith Lee never saw Priest actually, so Dominik Dijakovic came out to chase away Damian and check on Keith, but Keith thought that Dominik attacked him, so he hit him with a spirit bomb. And then Keith Lee got on Twitter later and was just like, oh, awkward. And then Finn Balor had a little video promo basically saying he has a passport and he's coming to NXT UK to confront this Imperium mess. And then Mia Yim defeated Dakota Kai to qualify for the women's #1 contender ladder match at TakeOver Tampa, whenever that's happening. And Kai had Yim in a surprise roll-up, the most devastating move in all of professional wrestling. But the ref was busy yelling at Raquel Gonzalez because she seemingly tried to interfere. And then when the ref's attention came back to the match, Yim hit Kai with the Protect Your Neck finisher and got the 1, 2, 3, and she moves on to qualify for said #1 contender match. And then Kushida defeated Raul Mendoza, and then later on, Mendoza was in the parking lot, and he was pulled into an SUV by 2 men in lucha masks and driven away. We'll see what that's about. I don't know. And then Rhea came out to address things going on with Charlotte, because we have to have a whole bunch of friendly banter about it. And then Charlotte came out, was just like, I'm the queen, yeah. And then she figure-eighted Rhea Ripley while Ripley's legs were wrapped around the post in the corner. Ouch. Tegan Nox defeated Deonna Purrazzo to qualify for the women's #1 contender ladder match. And, of course, now that Tegan's in there, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez are probably getting involved in that ladder match somehow because it's Tegan Nox. And this coming Wednesday on NXT, it will be Candice LeRae versus Mercedes Martinez in another qualifying match. The Broserweights defeated the Undisputed Era to retain the NXT Tag Team titles, and it was great how that happened because Adam Cole and Roderick Strong came out and to the ring to, quote unquote, watch and, interfere whenever the time was right. And the ref had his back to Pete Dunne when he did this, but Pete slapped himself and made it seem like Adam Cole had super kicked him. So the ref kicked out Adam and Roderick. And then once they won, the grizzled young veterans came out and started putting a beating on them. And then Tommaso Ciampa came out to the ring to finally address Johnny Gargano. And Johnny talked to him from a video in the conference room inside the Performance Center. And he said, everyone knows why he did it, but they just automatically forgive Ciampa for everything he's done the last 3 years. Of course, that's when Ciampa had turned on Johnny back when they were DIY during their first run. And Tommaso became, evil psycho killer, heel guy, champion. And yeah, he was just like, yeah, you just come back from neck surgery and everything's forgiven. And then Tommaso marched out of the ring and through the Performance Center to go find Johnny in said conference room. And they brawled all through the Performance Center, breaking mirrors and office equipment along the way. And it ended at the Perch, back in the arena when Ciampa did the air raid crash and they fell through the announce table. Whew, that was quite a wonderful episode. And at the same time on AEW Dynamite, Cody defeated Ortiz, and Jake the Snake Roberts was in the audience with his protege, Lance Archer, who had just been signed by AEW a few weeks ago. And then Santana attacked Cody after the match, and the rest of the Elite came out. And Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Jake Hager had kind of just waved to the Elite through a video, and they revealed that they had pinned Nick Jackson under a shutter door. Ouch. And this is all leading up to about a couple weeks from now, or is it a week from this Wednesday? I don't know. This has been a weird month. But on March 25th, they will be having a Blood and Guts episode, which is their version of War Games, where, of course, there's 2 rings, 2 cages, and competitors start trickling in, and the match begins when all competitors are in, and then whoever gets pinned or submitted from their team loses. So yeah, the whole story with War Games. So yeah, this whole War Games Blood and Guts thing will be the Elite versus the Inner Circle. And then Nia Rose and Bea Priestley defeated Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. And Bea Priestley attacked Nyla Rose and held up the women's title. Christopher Daniels made an amazing video mocking the Dark Order and challenged Evil Uno and Stu Grayson to singles matches, and when no Exalted One shows up, his point will be proven. Which, later on in that episode, they revealed that, can't remember if they said it was going to be this Wednesday or next Wednesday, but evidently the Exalted One will finally be revealed. Please let it actually be Matt Hardy. Please let it actually be Matt Hardy. Then MJF, the Butcher, and the Blade defeated Jurassic Express, and MJF actually wore an I pinned Cody shirt because he did at Revolution by being a fucking cheater. And then Aubrey Edwards proves she's one of the greatest refs in all of sports entertainment, because when the Butcher and the Blade were just, holding MJF, trying to keep him from getting dragged away, Aubrey actually kicked the Butcher's hand. Or was it the Blade's? I don't know. I'm a little iffy. They're both bald guys in manties. I don't know. And then Tony Schiavone was hanging out, interviewing with his best bud, Britt Baker, and she was just going on her I'm everyone's role model thing that she's going on, sort of Bailey-esque. And then Big Swole came out, and she was just like, "What are you talking about? Nobody likes you. Tony doesn't even like you." And then and then Britt was just like, "What are you doing here? I'm the only person in your household wrestling cares about is your boyfriend." That being Cedric Alexander, FYI. And then Big Swole was like, "I'm married, baby." Because, of course, Britt Baker has been in a relationship with Adam Cole for the last 3 years. And, of course, Adam Cole, baby. So Britt splashed her with coffee and then ran off. And then Death Triangle defeated Joey Janela and Private Party, Death Triangle being the new faction of Pac with the Lucha Brothers. And then they tried to hurt them some more, but Best Friends and Orange Cassidy chased them off. And then Dustin Rhodes backstage declared himself Hangman's mystery partner, whether Hangman likes it or not. And then Hangman and Dustin defeated Jericho and Sammy, and then the Inner Circle immediately ganged up on Dustin, and then Kenny and Cody came out to help and got beat down, and then Inner Circle was about to triple powerbomb Hangman off the backstage entrance when Matt Jackson superkicked Hager and Jericho and speared Santana and Ortiz, and then he flipped off Hangman and walked into Jericho, hitting him with a chair. Then Jericho opened up a chair and sat over Matt, and the Inner Circle put their middle fingers together, again, all Shield-like. And then the next day on NXT UK, Finn Balor came to the ring, and Imperium tried to corner him, but he fought off all of them and got away because Finn Balor's a badass. And this is one of those interesting sort of stories where it's heel versus heel, and you're just like, wait, do I not root for anybody because they're bad guys, or do I just root for the bad guy I liked? And if so, what does that say about me? But I don't know. But I'm sure. This is Finn Balor and Walter, two of the biggest and best bad guys in the business. So you can't go wrong, or can you not go right? I don't know. This is just all sorts of moral dilemmas. And then Pretty Deadly beat some jobbers, which Pretty Deadly is just kind of like a British male model version, just like Breezango of a tag team. They don't win a lot. Alexander Wolf demanded a match against Finn Balor for later that day. Jordan Devlin came back from his NXT Cruiserweight title tour and was informed by Johnny Saint and Sid Scala he will defend their cruiserweight title in 2 weeks against Travis Banks, which of course they have quite the history because the very first NXT UK takeover, Devlin was slated to have a match against Travis Banks, and then Devlin went and injured him, so that's when they brought in Finn Balor to teach Jordan Devlin a lesson, and sure enough he did, and this was when Finn Balor was actually a good guy. And then there was a backstage confrontation between Gallus and Dave Mastiff, Flash Morgan Webster, and Mark Andrews, which will lead to that particular six-man tag match for next week. Then Noam Dar defeated Ligero. Danny Luna versus Amale was ended by disqualification when Kaylee Ray attacked them and got on the mic to declare the division hers now that she's rid of Toni Storm for good. And earlier, Piper Niven had an interview where she talked about how she had to pretty much hope Tony was going to say I quit, and she was there in the ringside to talk sense into her during that match a few weeks ago. And she was just like, yeah, Tony's redeemable, but Kaylee's just evil. Then in the main event, Finn Balor defeated Alexander Wolf, and Imperium tried to slow him down, but he got out of it, and the whole entire of Imperium, besides Wolf, of course, was sent to the back by the ref. So, yeah, apparently Imperium not above said laws. And the same goes for the Undisputed Era, now that I think about it, considering Pete Dunne and his tricks. And then on Friday Night SmackDown, which took place to an empty audience in the Performance Center, but was still actually an amazing show. Start off with Bayley, who was supposed to get confronted by Paige, and Sasha Banks defeating Bliss Cross Applesauce with the help of Asuka, because while Nikki was in the ring with Sasha, Asuka came out from behind and pulled Alexa off the apron, and then pretty much slammed her against there, knocking her out. And of course, this is because Alexa and Nikki have been calling out the Kabuki Warriors the last few weeks to defend those titles. Well, now Asuka is starting to answer. Then next up, Michael Cole interviewed Roman Reigns in the ring about Goldberg, and Roman was talking about how Goldberg is a part-time superstar, and we're just over that now. Part-time superstars getting world championships, and also Roman talking about how his haters think he still doesn't deserve to main event WrestleMania, and he's just like, I main event live events and TVs and other pay-per-views all the time, so how exactly have I not earned main eventing WrestleMania? Which, I'm confused now. Like, is the main event going to be Charlotte versus Rhea? Is it going to be Drew versus Brock? Or is it going to be Roman versus Goldberg? Because, the old Royal Rumble rules was, you win the Royal Rumble, you get a championship match of your choice in the main event of WrestleMania. And now it's just like, well, because last year, of course, Becky won the Rumble, and of course that was absolutely the main event of WrestleMania between her, Charlotte, and Ronda. But Seth and Brock was first, but that's because if Brock isn't going last, he wants to go first, famously. And so it was between Drew and Brock and Charlotte and Rhea, and now Roman's talking about the Universal Championship being the main event. I don't know. I don't know. We either have a couple more weeks to WrestleMania, or we have a couple more months, but something's going to happen. And then they basically played the whole replay of the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match at Elimination Chamber. And of course, it ended with Miz and John Morrison sitting in the ring watching that whole thing and giving a pretty wonderful, typical Miz and Morrison promo about them being the best tag team of the 21st century. Be jealous. And Daniel Bryan defeated Cesaro, and apparently Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak are now allies, because earlier that episode, Daniel approached Drew and was like, hey, I want to learn something, and Drew thought he was just being sarcastic, but he was just like, no, I'm serious. Like, I didn't take you seriously before, but you actually took me to my limit and countered a lot of things of mine that aren't usually countered. So, I'm definitely willing to learn whatever you have to teach. And then, of course, that was when Sami Zayn, Cesaro, and Shinsuke Nakamura came in, and they were just being dicks. You know how they do. And yeah, pretty much Drew was ringside with Daniel, and Cesaro had Shinsuke ringside with Sammy on commentary with Michael Cole and Triple H, who Triple H was initially just supposed to do the opening segment of SmackDown, but ended up doing commentary the whole time, and he is fantastic at it, and I hope he continues to do that tonight on Raw, and also just however long this whole quarantine thing takes. And so, yeah, it seems that Bryan and Gulak are now allies, and of course, once Daniel Bryan defeated Cesaro, Shinsuke got involved, and then Gulak started brawling with Shinsuke, and then Sami Zayn came in, and all five men were brawling. And then next up was the return of Jeff Hardy, who made his return fighting King Corbin. And of course, King Corbin and Elias are starting their feud storyline. So Elias was on commentary, and Jeff and Corbin were having their match. And then, Elias was hitting him with a distraction finish by he standing on the commentary table and just playing on his guitar very loudly. And so Jeff Hardy hit him with a twist of fury, which is now called instead of twist of fate, which, okay. I'm just happy to see Jeff Hardy healthy and back in action. He hit him with a twist of fate and then his swanton bomb, got the 1, 2, 3, and welcome back, Jeff Hardy. And then next up, in our final segment of the evening, was John Cena coming out to the ring to talk to Michael Cole. And he said, he was talking about himself, he was talking about Bray Wyatt, and he was talking about the future of the WWE. And he said, people say I've been handed everything and had this great fortune, but what about when, all the times I've lost? I've lost to The Rock, I've lost to The Undertaker, I've lost, multiple times to basically a whole bunch of guys, to which I would say, yeah, there's no shame in losing to those guys. And, I just still kept working, and that's how I got to where I am. Bray Wyatt blames me for losing to me being the reason why he started his, downward spiral into despair and negativity and all that. But Bray Wyatt Bray Wyatt should blame himself because, when guys get beat like that, they just get lazy and get complacent and just like, oh, woe is me. And, that's not the future of the WWE. The future of the WWE is guys like superstars like Tommaso Ciampa, Velveteen Dream, Matt Riddle, Rhea Ripley, like those guys, not Bray Wyatt. Bray is just become this sort of warped thing that just blames his shit on other people. And then, of course, Bray Wyatt came out to face him directly, face to face, and he's just like, oh, it's gonna be bad for you, Cena. You really should just look it up, at least on the WWE YouTube. It was an absolutely wonderful segment. Ooh. But yeah, Cena said it's not going to be a showcase. It is going to be uncomfortable. It is going to be physical. It is going to be brutal. Yeah, I can't wait for this much. And then finally on 205 Live was just the 10-man elimination between the 205 Live originals versus the NXT Cruiserweights. And of course, the mystery NXT partner that's taken Lio Rush's place is Kushida. So, as follows, Tony Nese eliminated, or 205's Tony Nese, which I like that the 205 originals came out to Tony Nese's music, him being the 205 captain, but NXT decided to not have a captain. So they all came out to the Slipknot song that's the NXT theme. That was pretty awesome. If I wasn't rooting for them before, I'm definitely rooting for them now. So anyway, 205's Tony Nese eliminates NXT's Danny Burch. 205's Jack Gallagher eliminates NXT's Tyler Breeze. NXT's Oney Lorcan eliminates Tony Nese, and soon after that, 205's Tony Nese, and soon, almost immediately after that, eliminated 205's Mike Kanellis. And then NXT's Isaiah Swerve Scott eliminates Arya Davari and the Brian Kendrick almost immediately. And then 205's Jack Gallagher eliminates NXT's Oney Lorcan. Then NXT's Kushida eliminates 205's Jack Gallagher. And then Kushida... Oh, and then, of course, that's it, which left Kushida and Isaiah Swerve Scott as the sole survivors. And, of course, they just sort of looked at each other like they weren't going to start pounding on each other, but they were just like, this is the birth of a new rivalry, and we're going to see a lot of great things from those guys. So, yeah, that was a whole bunch. Stay safe, stay sanitary out there, stay healthy, and also kick butts, not nuts. This has been the Ring of Thunder.